What's the latest on Chad Maska, Florida State's 2022 four-star quarterback commit?
Yeah, I actually got a chance to speak with Chad earlier today, and
Hey guys, it's Terrence Mann. You're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by Nole Game Day. Go Noles.
Hey, what's up? This is Peter Ward, aka E-Dub, in the house. We're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by Nole Game Day. Go live, go Noles.
Hi, this is Charlie Ward, and you're listening to Hear the Spear. Go Noles.
This is Terrell Buckley. You're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by Nole Game Day. No Bloody.
But perhaps better known as the greatest corner to ever step on a football field, Deion Primetime Sanders.
Great Deion Sanders, my brother. What's going on, man? I could wake up to that greeting every day, man. That was awesome.
Hello, Noles fans. This is former Seminole Derek Brooks, and you're listening to Hear the Spear, presented to you by Nole Game Day.
James Wilder Jr. What's going on, James?
Thanks for having me on. SSOD, Florida State or Die, and go Noles.
William Bar None Floyd.
Gentlemen, what's up?
What's happening, guys? This is Logan from Hear the Spear, presented to you by No Game Day. I'm here tonight with our lead writer and editor, Dustin Lewis, and our lead basketball writer, Austin Feasy. We are going to recap the FSU versus Virginia game that came to a loss on the road. We're going to go over some quick hitters here regarding FSU football, a little bit of recruiting, a little bit of the Super Bowl, and a lot of other things. You can always listen to us on SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play. If you're on iTunes, rate us 5 stars and leave us a review. And we will be sure to read out your review on iTunes, which
we've never done, by the way.
Which I am literally about to do right now. It's funny that you say that, Dustin. Which I'm literally doing right now as we speak, because I already have it pulled up. Let's start off right here. So this is from Jackson Shivers, actually a big Instagram follower of ours. He says, Nole Game Day, he rated us 5 stars. He said, Nole Game Day has the best Florida State content you can get. Nole Game Day has the best podcast on FSU football and puts out FSU information before any other site. I would strongly recommend to subscribe to Nole Game Day on YouTube and listen to all their podcasts and follow them on social media. So thank you, Jackson, for leaving the review like that. We try to shout out everyone that leaves us a 5-star review and leaves a review. So if you're interested in doing that, feel free to go ahead and get that done. But yeah, how you guys doing this evening?
Wait. We only got one?
No, there's multiple other ones, but we can only do one every week, Dustin. We have multiple. Okay. There's a lot of 5-star other ones. I mean, if we start not getting a lot of 5-star reviews, then I'm gonna have to go back to like 2 years ago. Are y'all awake? It is 11:45. We are actually planning on recording with someone that's across the seas from us. It's gonna be an early morning for him. It is across the seas.
It's just
not wrong.
I know. Thank you.
It's just funny.
It is funny. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm on this podcast, Dustin. How are you guys doing? Y'all awake? I mean, geez, I'm the only one awake right now. Wake up.
Well, we were the one waiting on you, so I'd argue we're the ones awake.
Are we the usual ones waiting on Dustin Lewis?
This is true. We usually are waiting on Dustin.
Thank you.
I'm not late for podcasts that involve an interview, though.
Is that right?
You got to be more timely for the important ones.
Okay. But y'all are having a good week I mean, it's the end of the week. It's Friday. We're recording this. Y'all had a good week?
Yeah, it's all right. Finish it off with some Panda Express shrimp, so we'll see how the night ends.
How'd that go for you?
I mean, it went down great.
And
we'll see what happens.
Panda Express shrimp. Yikes. You're going to have a rough night, brother. How about you, Austin? How's your week been?
It's been all right. Saw a loss on the road in Charlottesville, and hopefully I'm not 0-2 when I go to Blacksburg tomorrow. But other than that, it's been all right.
I just found out that there's nothing else in life that Austin does but follow Florida State basketball and cover it. So he does nothing else. He has nothing else to do, but it's just Florida State basketball. Did you like go shopping? Did you get groceries? Did you go to the gym?
I mean, I went to my other 2 jobs. Does that count?
Somewhat.
Yeah, I figured.
I guess. Man, You're a grinder. Well, I say we get into a little bit of the football quick hitters. There's not a lot, too much to talk about, mainly recruiting here. But upcoming this weekend, some of them are already here. 3 official visitors are on campus. 3-star DB Sidney Williams, 3-star linebacker DJ Lundy, and 3-star defensive end TJ Davis. TJ Davis is kind of a big name coming in this weekend. Can you give us the latest on that, Dustin, and where Florida State might lie with a few of these guys?
Yeah, for sure. Florida State, they were originally scheduled to have 5 official visitors on campus. Obviously, DeJuan Edwards ended up committing to Georgia, and Chris Abrams-Drain committed to Missouri earlier on Friday. But still, those were guys, they weren't sure if the numbers would be there to keep them in the class anyway. So kind of works out in the end. But you end up with 3 guys on campus. You said them, Logan, Sidney Williams, DJ Lundy, and TJ Davis. Williams and Davis are already on campus, and Lundy will be there on Saturday, which is when this podcast will come out anyway. And they'll all be there until Sunday. I'd say it's likely that Sidney Williams ends up in this class if Donovan Kaufman commits elsewhere. We'll see what happens there. It's a numbers game, and Florida State's going to take one of the 2. As for Lundy, it's going to come down to FSU and Georgia. He's never visited FSU or really met with his staff before, so they're just going to have to knock out a home run on this visit in 24 hours. He's a very talented linebacker prospect, and FSU would really love to have him. And then with TJ Davis, he's a guy the staff's been on over the last month, and they've kept it a little bit quiet. And it's really just between FSU and Georgia Tech at this point for his commitment. And I think if this visit goes well, again, he'll likely be in this class. FSU's done a really great job on him.
A busy weekend once again for Norvell. Does it seem like, if there's any chance he could run an official visit weekend throughout the rest of this offseason, it feels like?
Yeah, it's just crazy how many guys he's getting on campus. I mean, Sidney Williams and Lundy weren't even really prospects we were hearing about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Sidney Williams pretty much came out of nowhere, I would say. And then Lundy, I mean, he just announced earlier this week out of nowhere that he'd be visiting Florida State. So it's really interesting how quickly Norvell has been able to get in on some guys.
4-star quarterback 2022 commit to Florida State, Chad Masco. Already pretty much a fan of Florida State, committed early, obviously, to the Seminoles, committed while Willie Taggart was there under the helm, but Norvell is now there. What's an update on him? He's now at IMG Academy, had to deal with an injury in 2019. This is a 4-star quarterback that has a lot of potential too, and he has a lot of strengths and a high ceiling too. What's the latest on Chad Masco, Florida State's 2022 4-star quarterback commit?
Yeah, I actually got a chance to speak with Chad earlier today, and we just talked about a couple things. First off, there's been a rumor going around that he was going to reclassify to the 2021 class, and he quickly shot that down and said he plans to remain a 2022 recruit. Mm-hmm. So that means he'll be going into his junior year this season. But he did suffer a torn meniscus last summer, and he's back to 100%. He actually finished the last couple games of his sophomore season, and he said now going into the offseason, he's feeling really healthy again and thinks he's on pace for a great junior year. But he told me that he hasn't met with the staff in person yet, but he has talked to them. He's planning to be at Florida State on March 7th for the, I guess it would be the second junior day of the offseason. That would be the first time he gets to meet the staff in person. But regardless of that, he's remaining committed to Florida State at this time. He's still open to other schools, but he really loves Florida State. I mean, you have to remember when this guy committed in the first place, it was right after FSU's loss to Boise State. He went ahead and pulled the trigger to commit. So this is a guy that he really loves the program, and he said it before, he's committed to the school rather than the coaching staff. So I think as long as he ends up feeling comfortable with Norvell and Dillingham, which he talked about how he loves how they run their offense, and he's really excited to meet with them. So I think if they can develop that relationship, he's definitely a guy that'll end up in Tallahassee. And another thing is he's a very talented quarterback. He's ranked as the #1 pro-style passer right now in the 2022 class. So you have to think with him being back fully healthy and having 2 more years to continue to improve, he might be a 5-star prospect.
Mm-hmm. And he's right in the limelight right there in IMG too. You know, you cross around with a lot of talent, and you're surrounded by other teams that you face in Florida that are obviously highly talented too. So there's a chance where, you know, he could move up in that 5-star range. And I think Florida State's and they got a really good future quarterback. And it seems like did it seem like to you when you were talking to him, Dustin, that, you know, he solidified with Florida State more than anything?
I thought so. He's solidified with what Florida State is, but he needs to develop a relationship with his coaching staff.
Yeah, and they need to build something, and hopefully Norvell can get him in and, you know, chat with them. And, you know, one thing that we've heard, you know, if you can just get the guy over here, Norvell is, you know, from what we've heard, is done a really well job just sit in the room and be able to talk to these guys and tell them straight up if he really thinks that they'll have a lot of playing time here in Tallahassee. And obviously being the #1 pro style right now in the 2022 class, I think Norvell will key in on him and try to keep Masco on the commitment list.
Yeah, and I mean, you just have to remember how much he loves the program. Again, the time he committed was pretty wild. You don't normally see a top recruit commit following a loss like that at home, and also the way he kept his commitment following Willie Taggart being fired and also Mike Norvell hired. I mean, he hasn't wavered in his commitment at all, and as long as everything goes well with his staff, I mean, expect him to be here. His family lives right down the road in Thomasville, and he thinks this is a very good spot for him.
Former Nole and former actually Hear the Spear guest, James Wilder Jr. Wow. I know, I completely screwed that up. James Wilder Jr. Has actually signed back into the CFL and has joined the Alouettes de Montreal up there in Canada. And one thing about this, you know, it seems like a lot of Noles are heading up there into the CFL. You know, we just got news that Carlos Williams is heading up there, and also Kenny Shaw, I believe news came out this week that he is also signed with the CFL team. But there was a lot of speculation also about either if, you know, he was trying out also for the WWE. And, you know, was there some talk about him maybe going to the NFL and getting a chance there? Most certainly, because he had a great time in Toronto and showing out there when he was in the CFL. But he is going to sign back, and now he's going back in the CFL with the Alouettes de Montreal. Greg Reed is also on that team, as a lot of us know, and fans who are big fans of G5, punt return, nasty DB. Greg Reed is also going to be on that team with James Wilder Jr., if I can speak correctly. Any thoughts on that, guys? Because we've had James on here before. And he's definitely most certainly really focused on his career more than anything and the path and, you know, supporting his family and providing for them. But Wilder gets a chance to go back into the CFL. And I you know, it seems like he had a big fan base rocking up there in Toronto. How do y'all feel about this?
I'm obviously very happy for Wilder and to get another chance and to join Kenny Shaw going back up there and Greg Reed, another former Nole. It's always great to see these guys continue their careers past Florida State. A lot of football players don't get to play professional football at all, so to see them continuing to chase their dreams is always great to see.
Yeah, I mean, like Austin said, it's always good to see former Noles playing professional football, and I'll definitely be trying to tune into the CFL a little bit more with Kenny Shaw and James Wilder remaining there, Carlos Williams. And I mean, man, I want to see Greg Reed return some kicks in the CFL. Take me back to 2009, please.
Yeah, most certainly. I think there's a little bit of talks, and we're in the works right now I actually talked with Carlos earlier tonight, but I think we might be able to work a little duo podcast with two former 2013 national champions, Carlos and Wilder, and get them on here and talk some Noles, and I think that'd be a pretty good time. But that's kind of in the works right now, something to look forward to, getting Wilder and Carlos on. I can guarantee you it would be a pretty damn good time. So that's something in the works right now on our end. But yeah, there's a little update from up north in the CFL. Let's talk Super Bowl since we're recording this on Friday night. Florida State. The 49ers are going to be facing off against Kansas City Chiefs. Garoppolo versus Mahomes. How are y'all's just feelings about this game going in? Because, before every Super Bowl, you get feelings before it. Are y'all, really interested in it? And you're like, okay, I'll still watch it, but I'm not, really care that much. But are y'all, really interested in it? Or is it just oh, maybe I'll watch it and not really give a damn?
I'm probably more in the not give a damn category. I didn't even watch a single second of last year's Super Bowl, as crazy as that sounds.
Whoa.
Yeah, no. I'll actually watch this year's just because I actually have some interest and there's no New England Patriots. It's going to be a great game, though. You got the best offense in the league versus the best defense. 49ers are super young on the defensive side of the ball, but they're still so talented. I'm really looking forward to this. And you've got the two best tight ends in the league, too, which that's always great to see.
Yeah, I'd say I care a little bit just because, these are two of the best teams in the NFL this season.
Yeah,
Obviously,
Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, but I just mean it's crazy how they got here because obviously San Francisco, they weren't great a year ago and they came back and on the backbone of their defense and running game, look at where they are. Jimmy Garoppolo only threw 9 passes in the conference championship to make it to the Super Bowl, which is pretty insane to me. And then you look over at the Chiefs and they were down 24-0 to the Texans, come back to win by 30 or however much to make it look like a blowout after they were getting smacked. So just to see the two paths these teams have taken to the Super Bowl, it's been pretty odd, I would say. So I'm excited to see this matchup. Like you said, Austin, best offense versus best defense, but man, you can't not bet on Pat Mahomes after what he can do with his arm. It's just insane sometimes.
This game, I want to be interested. I don't know if it's because the rough week it's been with the Kobe news and stuff. It's just tough for me to really focus on the Super Bowl actually happening on Sunday. I think that's taking a main toll on me. I watch SportsCenter First Take throughout the day, every time during lunchtime. So I'm always interested. And again, this is the last football game of the year too. But I'm not highly interested in it. But I will go ahead and say that the 49ers will win this game. That might be a bold prediction there. But I think a lot of people are also counting them out. But this defense is nasty. Bosa is actually stupid nasty. I think he gets 3 sacks against Garoppolo. He goes against his own freaking quarterback. He goes against freaking Mahomes and get 3 sacks. And I don't know. I just feel like the 49ers are kind of being slept on a little bit. I know, Mahomes is a different animal at quarterback. But you know what? Garoppolo's got a lot of wins under his belt. Not a lot of losses. And this is in Miami. And I don't know. I'm feeling a 49ers win. The 49ers do pretty good winning Super Bowls in Miami. So I'm going to pick 49ers. How about you guys?
I'm actually going to agree with you. I think the 49ers are going to win this game. Because I think their offense is good enough to where, as great as the defense is, the offense isn't slacking that far behind. They still got great playmakers. They traded for Emmanuel Sanders. They've got a great stable of running backs. They got George Kittle, obviously. And then that defense is it's so hard to score against them. I saw it firsthand with my Vikings not doing daily scoring against them.
Yeah.
And then the Packers are doing even worse. And then the Chiefs, yeah, they've got an outstanding offense. They've got 2 great edge rushers. But after that, it starts getting a little worse. Yeah, you got Tyrann Mathieu, but I don't think their defense is as good as 49ers offenses, if that makes sense.
I think it all comes down to the first half for me. If Kansas City gets up in this game by by 10 points or so, even 7 points by halftime. The 49ers, I don't believe in Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't believe in their passing game. I love Kittle, and Kittle can get some yards, but I mean, to only have Garoppolo throw 9 times in that conference game, it just kind of worries me a little bit. So I'm interested to see what he can do in the big game for sure, but 9 passes in the championship game, I can't roll with that. And Pat Mahomes, I mean, the kind of insane throws he can make. He has playmakers all over the offensive side of the ball. So if they can chip into that San Francisco defense, force them to have to throw the ball to win the game, I like Kansas City.
Super Bowl is going to be held on Sunday at 6:30 p.m. on the Fox. Jennifer Lopez and Shakira are going to be your halftime performers. You guys have any thoughts on how that will go, and will you guys be watching that?
I saw one tweet saying Shakira doesn't deserve to be on the same stage as Jennifer Lopez, and I couldn't believe it. I was so dumbfounded by the stupidity of that tweet.
Why?
Because Shakira's so famous worldwide. She may not have the hits in America, but worldwide, she's arguably the biggest star in music.
Are you personally a fan of her?
Not really. I'm not personally a fan of either of them, but I just think Shakira is more worldwide known than Jennifer Lopez is.
Oh, wow. Okay. Dustin, will you be watching this halftime show?
I'm going to be honest. I haven't really tuned into a halftime show ever since the Lady Gaga one a while back, just because I feel like no one else can top that performance. Because I never liked.
Was that Left Shark? Left Shark was the last one I watched.
I never liked
Timberlake.
Shut up. I never liked Lady Gaga. But then she did that halftime performance, and I was like, damn, Lady Gaga, not a bad performer. So I probably won't be watching the halftime show because no one can live up to it. Peace out.
What, are you about to leave the podcast or something? We got more to record, dude.
Yeah, I don't know why I said that.
Yeah. Okay, I was just wondering. I think, let's be honest, Dustin, I think Austin has some kind of freakish love for Shakira.
Here we go.
But no, that's it. That's all we have to say. I mean, we think that you like Shakira, not just because you just know her name's Shakira, but I think you have some extra towards her. But that's just me. And maybe Dustin, do you feel that way?
I'll be honest, I wasn't paying attention. What?
Great. Anyways,
thanks, Dustin. Appreciate it.
We'll move on. But that's all during work. That's all I heard anybody talk about was the halftime show. I'm like, damn, does anybody give a damn about the friggin' game?
Nope.
Jesus Christ. So yeah, that's our.
People watch the Super Bowl for commercials and the halftime show.
That's true.
You watch it for football, you're casual.
No. A casual? Is that what they say?
That's what they say.
I'm just a casual scumbag then. I just watch it for the football play. But I actually think it'll be a good game on Sunday, so we'll see who's right. We shall see. All right, let's move on to a little bit of basketball. So we have some questions to go over after we get over the hot topics, and obviously we'll start off right away with Florida State's loss at Virginia. The Noles lose 61-56, and a close game, close matchup. Goes to Wilkes at the end. 3 doesn't go through. Florida State gets a rebound, goes straight to Forrest. He misses a 3, wide open 3. Florida State loses. Tough game. And, Florida State was riding on a long winning streak. And you think what are y'all's first thoughts coming away from this game? Because I think y'all felt pretty solid about this game, FSU coming away with the win. But, is it, you think that season's over, that everybody should just lose their minds and this is it, fire Hamilton?
Yeah, one thing, how do I put this nicely? One thing I'm not a fan of our fan base about is they're so football oriented that a basketball loss they treat as a football loss. Everybody loses in college basketball. It's going to happen. And an ACC game on the road, and this is a quadrant 1 game technically, so by definition, it's a good loss. I don't think that way, but it's technically a good loss. It's not going to hurt Florida State losing on the road against Virginia. And it was a very winnable game. I think it was tied with a minute something left. They just had a couple bad series offensively and defensively. But they had their chances to win this. It wasn't like they were blown out by 20 on the road against Wake Forest. Virginia's still a good team, even if they're not the national championship team they were a season ago. And they were still in it to the end.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you can't expect a team to win every game. Going into Virginia, defending national champions on the road. And I mean, the broadcast was talking about this before the game. Virginia had to win this game to continue their hopes of being able to make the tournament in March. This was a huge game for them. Florida State riding a 10-game winning streak. You can't win forever. And now Florida State, I think a loss like this is just going to help the team get back in that hungry mindset, and they're going to go out and win a couple more in a row. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And like you said with the last shot with Wyatt Wilkes, it was a little rushed. You could tell that kind of wasn't the draw. Denver still had a nice game, finished with 17 points, but Virginia they couldn't miss from three, which no one's seen for Virginia this year. Mamadi Diakite had 19 points, and it said he finished 3 of 3 from downtown. I swear he was 7 of 7. It just felt like he could not miss from downtown.
Yeah, he hit so many back-breaking shots in the second half. Florida State was staying in the game, and every time they took a 1-point lead or tied it up, it felt like Diakite was hitting a shot from deep or somehow getting to the rim and getting fouled and getting a couple free throws or just getting an easy bucket inside. So he had a really great game for Virginia, and Florida State didn't have much of an answer for him on the defensive end all night.
Yeah, if you look at the team box scores, you would think Florida State would have won. They shot 35% from three, made 7 of their 20. Virginia made 5 of their 12, but it's not enough of a difference. They turned Virginia over 17 times, which very rarely happens. Virginia fouled 15 times. That very rarely happens. Virginia only had 1 steal. Florida State only turned it over 7 times. Florida State had 5 blocks. But the whole difference was free throw shooting. Virginia shot 20 of 23 from the free throw line. Florida State shot just 7 of 11. Once again, an opponent doubles up Florida State's free throws, and it cost Florida State the game. That was basically the entire game right there. Florida State dominated almost every other aspect. They got a little manhandled on the boards, but other than that, it really just came down to free throws.
Yeah, and I mean, Virginia's guards, they just got to the rim at will. Kihei Clark, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but he got Malik Osborne into some switches, and he just had that speed and smaller size mismatch and could go right by him and get to the rim. And if he wasn't getting a layup, which he did a couple times, Malik normally fouled him. And then he also got fouled by Balsa, which resulted in Koprivica being ejected from the game. Real quick, what do you think about his ejection, Austin? Do you think it was warranted for that play?
I know a lot of fans didn't think it warranted a flagrant 2, but by the letter of the law, yeah, it was a flagrant 2, and I agreed with it real time and in the replays they were showing in John Paul Jones Arena. Just the size difference. He came down not swinging at the ball, and it kind of looked like he was going for the head neck area, which is why they called it. And it was definitely intentional. So, yeah, I agreed it was a flagrant 2 foul, even if most of our fans didn't.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. I was going to say, if Kihei Clark was 6'3", do you think Balsa gets ejected?
Probably not, because it's probably a block.
But outside of Kihei Clark, you also had Braxton Key. He went 5 of 7 from the line. Between those two, that was 14 of those 23 free throw attempts. And yeah, Florida State didn't have an answer for Diakite, Key, or Clark, and those are Virginia's top 3 players, and they all just had pretty solid nights offensively. And then, like always, Virginia just has that suffocating defense that makes it so tough to score the ball, and we saw that across Florida State's roster. Devin Vassell was the only player to hit double figures against the Cavaliers.
Yeah, he was the only one that had any sort of was a good night. Raekwon Gray had 8 points, which is solid for him. But after that, Malik had 5. MJ had 7. Trent had a pretty poor game for him, 4 points. Wyatt had 5. Dominic had 2. Balls had 2. Anthony Polite, who had a great first game against Virginia, only scored 4. It was just a rough game offensively, but that's kind of what you expect when you go to play Virginia.
Yeah, and going back to Gray, most of his production came in those first couple minutes. I believe it was in the first 3 minutes he hit both of those 3-pointers, so he really only scored 2 points the rest of the way. And Florida State got out to an early lead, but Virginia fought back, and they just wore down the Seminoles as the game went on and made a couple more crucial plays at the end to pull this one out. But like we said, that's what happens on the road in the ACC. This is still not this year, but this is still one of the toughest conferences in basketball to win, especially on the road. And Florida State, they're going to go regroup, and we know what Leonard Hamilton can do and bring out of this group of guys, and they'll get another shot at it tomorrow. Well, I guess today, if Logan posted the podcast in time, we'll find out.
Now they get to go back to Virginia, and they're now going to Blacksburg to take on the Virginia Tech Hokies, who are 11-7 this year, 5-5 in conference. They're surprising a lot of people. It's their first year with a new head coach after Buzz Williams went to Texas A&M. They got the old coach from Wofford, Mike Young. And they've got some good wins: Michigan State, Syracuse, NC State. But they've also lost against BYU, Boston College, and Miami. But that's life in the ACC. It's going to be a very similar game to Notre Dame. I feel like if you're annoyed by Notre Dame taking a lot of threes, you're going to be annoyed by this game because Virginia Tech takes and makes the most threes in the conference, but they're only making them at a 33% clip compared to, I think Notre Dame was at like 37, 38. It's an extremely young team. 5 of their top 6 scorers are freshmen. They're going to be a scary team in next year and the year after, but this year they're kind of just finding their way, gaining some experience. They're going to beat a couple teams here and there, though.
They might be Florida State if they get hot from behind the arc. This is a team that's attempted 583s in 21 games. That's over 20 attempts a game. I mean, that's just pretty insane, no matter how you put it. So, with so many attempts coming from outside the arc, all it takes is one guy really to get hot for one game and just light Florida State up. And I feel like we've seen that time and time again over the past couple of years. I said that on a couple podcasts back. A random 3-point shooter comes out and has his best game against Florida State. So let's see if the Hokies can pull that out of their back pocket.
They've got a lot of 3-point shooters. Leading the way for them is Landers Nole II. He was shooting 7 threes a game, making them at 36.7%. Second on scoring is Naheem Aline, 9.5 points per game, shooting 4 attempts from downtown, 40%. Jalen Cone, averaging 7 points a game, 4 attempts from downtown, but he's making them at 53.8%, which is unbelievable. You got Hunter Couture, who's making threes at almost 40%. PJ Horn's making them at 35%. You've got so many great shooters littered throughout the roster, which you'd expect with the coach from Wofford, which that's what they did. They just took and made a ton of threes, and it almost got them really deep into the tournament. There were a lot of people's Cinderella stories for that year. Their roster is completely different from a season ago. I think only 2 players on the roster were there last year. And the fact that they're treading water in the death machine that is the middle of the ACC this year, it's pretty impressive. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I remember when they were expected to be one of the bottom feeders in the conference, and instead they've been a nice surprise for the ACC this year. But Virginia Tech, they're also an extremely, well, I don't know if you would call them extremely deep, but they run a deep rotation. They have 9 guys playing double figures in minutes per game, and 8 are playing 14.5 minutes or more. So this is a team that'll definitely sub as much as Florida State. I don't know if the talent will be up to the same caliber, but they'll be able to run with Florida State, and they won't be tired, that's for sure. So this is a game, Florida State's perimeter defense is going to have to be on lockdown mode with Virginia Tech taking so many 3-pointers. And the Seminoles are going to need guys like Trent Forrest, Anthony Polite, MJ Walker, Vassell to really be great on the outside and force guys out of shots.
Yeah, because this is a really short Virginia Tech lineup. They've only got 2 guys that consistently play minutes, 6'7" or taller, and that's Landers Nole, who we mentioned earlier, and then John Ojiako. I hope I said his name right. That's it. Those are their only 2 guys that play minutes that are above 6'7". So I'm expecting a lot of switching 1 through 5 from Florida State, which a lot of people weren't a fan of the last few games, but it's what they have to do now with no true rim protector to help guide the defense. And like you said, it's just going to come down to Florida State's wing defenders. Forrest, Polite, Walker, Vassell, even Raekwon Evans if he gets into the game. It's really going to come down to them and how well they can guard the perimeter and limit those good chances from three.
Yeah. I mean, this is just a scary one. Anytime someone can just get hot, and Virginia Tech, back-to-back road game for Florida State. And the last couple times the Seminoles have went up to Plattsburgh, it's felt like Virginia Tech has really had a great environment up there. Not sure if it'll be as good this year with, the transition to a new coach and pretty much a whole new roster in place, like you said, Austin. But I think anytime you're playing a back-to-back road game, it's always very tough. So regardless of how Virginia Tech it has been this year, this is going to be a tough game for the Seminoles to walk out of there with a win.
Yeah, and like I was saying about their similarities to Notre Dame earlier, they rarely turn it over. They're 8th in the country in fewest turnovers. And they're top 20 in fewest fouls. Notre Dame was top 3 in both of those categories, but it's still along the same lines about how good they are protecting the ball and not fouling. It's going to be a tough game. MJ Walker had his best game of his career the last time we played in Blacksburg. I think he had 24 or 25 points. If he can get anywhere close to that again, I think Florida State has a great chance of winning. But Florida State needs this win, but also so does Virginia Tech. So it's going to be an interesting game. There's no doubt about that, and this is a much-needed bounce-back game for Florida State.
Yeah, it should be a good one because obviously Florida State, they're going to be focused up following the loss at Virginia on the road. And then, like you said, Virginia Tech needs this win. They've struggled their last couple of games. They've lost 3 out of the last 4, and the only win in that time period was a double overtime win against North Carolina, who we all know hasn't been very great this year. But they lost to Syracuse at home, beat North Carolina in that double overtime game at home, and then they've lost their last 2 games on the road at BC by 5 and at Miami by 10. So coming home in front of their home crowd, the Hokies are going to want to get back on track, and this would certainly be a quality win for them moving forward.
Yeah, it really would be. They can't afford to lose 3 in a row, just like Virginia couldn't afford to lose 3 in a row last time we played them, but they still ended up losing 3 in a row. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. They're pretty good defensively given how young they are, only allowing 63 points a game. They're not turning teams over a ton, but that comes with youth, and the more experience they have, the better they'll get defensively, which is a scary thought. I think Florida State's going to win. I think it's going to be really tight. It's going to come down to the wire, just like the last few games have. But I think it's just going to be more due to environment, not as much of struggles.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and make my score prediction for this one. Like you said, Austin, it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tight, contested game throughout. I think Florida State, they're going to find a little bit more life on offense than they did going up against a defense that's not up to the caliber Virginia was. Obviously, they'll get some easier baskets in this game, probably be a little bit more efficient from the field overall. So I've got Florida State 72, Virginia Tech 68 as the Seminoles get back on track.
Yeah, my score is very similar. I have Florida State 68, Virginia Tech 66. I think it's going to come down to the wire. Guys are going to have to make some free throws in the clutch, whether it's Trent Forrest, MJ Walker, Devin Vassell, one of those guys. They're going to have to make plays late that they didn't make against Virginia, but I do think they will come out with a W.
Should we get into some questions here real quick before we get our guest on for the evening?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's run through them real quick. This is coming from Twitter here. This is coming from Heath, our big listener. Said also, he's going to be pissed, but can we start referring to Austin as McNasty to pay homage to his place of bitterness? McNasty, I'm talking to you. Is this a good nickname?
I really don't think I'm that bitter of a person. You guys just bring it out of me.
I doubt he's asking it.
No, Logan brings it out of you.
This is mostly Logan.
Probably. Most likely. That's probably me. I can't lie.
So he's tell Logan to,
I will. It just comes when it needs to come. It is what it is. If people don't know, I say that Austin worked at McDonald's, and I haven't been able to confirm that he hasn't worked there. He claims that he does. Do
you want to see my resume? I can send it to you. I think I've already sent you
we
my
all
resume.
can make a resume, Austin McNasty, but it's all good. Anyways, on to next question number 2, because we don't have a lot of time left. Next question. What do you think happens to the team? They look tired, and I wonder why. As for football, which offensive player will shine this season? Maybe a defensive star also. So this is a lot of questions. Let's do it really quick here. So let me start off with question number 1. What do you think happens to this team? They looked tired, and I wonder why. I'm sure they're referring to basketball.
Yeah, I think it was just because they'd played, 3 days earlier? And it was a tougher game than they were all expecting, and they have to go on the road in a really tough environment. And Virginia's just one of those teams that are just going to wear you down. I don't think it was as much of them looking tired. It's just the way Virginia plays basketball.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with what he just said.
And then question number 2, as for football, which offensive player will shine this upcoming season?
Can I go cop-out answer?
Go right ahead.
Tamorian Terry.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go, because that's the easy answer.
Well, I just think in Norvell's offense, he's gonna shine. Florida State, they're gonna be able to get the ball out to him in a variety of ways, and I don't know. I just think this offense, like Dillingham and Norvell have said, it's designed for playmakers.
Plus, we still don't know exactly what's going on with the running back room. Is LeBourne staying? Is he not? Who's going to be the backup? Who's going to be the third string? How that whole rotation is going to work out? We still don't have a great idea. So, I think Tamorion's answer is the easy answer there.
Yeah, that's an easy answer. If I'm going to predict this, it's probably going to be someone other than, if I'm going to guess, other than Tamorion Terry. It's going to be someone in that wide receiver department. There is a lot of talent there, a lot of young guys, too, that have a chance to shine. I look at a little bit of Jordan Young. Be on the lookout for him as a guy that could shine. Tamorion Terry can do his thing, but have a guy show out and shine per se from what the question comes from. I'd look at Jordan Young as a wide receiver. We already know what DJ Matthews can do. Keyshawn Helton. Look at a young cat, not so young, but as in not getting a lot of playing time. Look at Jordan Young as a potential player to show out. And that running back situation has got to be handled too. There's a lot of questions going into spring, and we're looking forward to covering it. And then defensive star heading into the 2020 season. How do you guys feel coming out of that?
I think there's a lot of guys that have potential to be the defensive star. It really just depends on how quickly people can get healthy, like Kando and Woodby, and if they bounce back to their pre-injury form. I'm actually going to go super wild card here. I'm going to go Emmett Rice.
Okay. I actually really like that pick.
I'm going pretty wild card as well. I'm going with Akeem Dent. I think the former 5-star prospect is going to actually catch some interceptions in 2020. Give him at least 5.
It's a very bold take.
Akeem Dent at cornerback?
It don't matter.
Because I think that DB room is going to kind of be shuffled around. I think it's going to be a little bit different than what we saw last year. These kind of predictions I like doing more towards the summer than anything. I mean, before spring, like heading into spring practice, I'll usually make these picks. But I picked Asante Samuel to have a good season before spring, and he showed out. And I like what he saw, and he's by far FSU's best corner heading into 2020. This one, I'm high. I'm really high on Emmett Rice. I am high on him too. I think Austin stole one of my guys. Mine's gonna kind of be wide range. I want to go in that linebacker department. I think someone's got to step up. I think Chris Marv coming in is going to coach them very well. I actually like the way that they played during their bowl game. So I would like to see a young cat step up, a Deloach, a McRae, Glennon. I like to see one of those young guys step up. I don't really have a name yet per se, but when we get to spring, then I'll name my guy. been a pretty good job at naming dudes. Sante, thank you for having a good season. Let's see here. This next question is coming from, I think this is Mama Lewis, Dustin.
Well, that was the question we just did. Yeah.
Okay, that was another one. Okay, so tiredness, I am referring to
that was just continuing the question.
Well, this is confusing. Logan. This is confusing for me.
It's not confusing if you'd read the document.
I'm reading it.
You're reading it too late.
Well, I didn't know that I had to read something that was below it.
You never even read out the person's name for the last question, which was Mama Lewis.
Well, sorry, Mama Lewis. Thank you for listening as always. I appreciate you for listening, and I'm very glad I got to meet you on Saturday's game where we got the win. So we need to go to games more often and watch FSU win. This next question is from Alex is me 03. How far do you expect FSU to make it in the ACC tournament?
It's too early to say. It's just like the normal tournament. It depends on matchups.
I expect nothing less than a championship.
Sounds about right. And this next question is coming from our regular listener, Heath. Do you think the loss to Virginia could trend in a downward spiral with our toughest ACC matchups coming up?
I personally don't think so, just because a lot of those toughest matchups are at home, and I will never, ever predict FSU to lose at home. They have the road game in Cameron Indoor against Duke, but besides that, home against Louisville, home against North Carolina. Away at Virginia Tech, maybe, I guess. But I think this team's too well led and too well coached to go in any sort of downward spiral. I think this is a really good team, and I think they've got a good head on their shoulders.
Yeah, I think they've got the mentality to respond, and we'll see that starting with Virginia Tech today or tomorrow, however you want to say it. But I don't think Florida State is going to go into a downward spiral or anything like that. There's just another bump in the road, and hey, sometimes that's what happens. But this team still in line for a top 3 seed come March, and they just have to bounce back. And one win, like what we saw earlier in January against Louisville, could get this team into another hot stretch. So highs and lows, baby.
Well, I think it's time to go ahead and bring on our guest of the evening. Looking forward to bringing him on. Former Nole. I don't think we've even teased any of this really, but FSU basketball player from last season, David Nichols, will be joining us. Let's go and bring him on. We got our guest of the week. We haven't had one in a little while, but we got another basketball guy from Leonard Hamilton's squad, David Nichols, from the 2018 to 2019 season, joining us on Hear the Spirit to talk about a little bit of Florida State basketball, his time there, and what he's up to now. David, it's 8 in the morning over there. How are you doing, man? Thanks for coming on early with us.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm chilling, just got up, but nothing better to do first thing in the morning, talk to you guys.
Appreciate it, man. You're over there in Cyprus. How is it over there? What are you up to? How's it going? Obviously, the time change is a big difference. Isn't that near Greece in some part off on an island? That's what Austin told us. He might be BSing us, but is that near Greece on an island somewhere?
Yeah, it's a little bit east of Greece, right below Turkey, so just south of Turkey. But I mean, it's nice out here. It's about 60 degrees right now, so it's not as warm as Tallahassee, but much warmer than I'm used to back in Chicago or than when I was in New York. So it's really nice for me for this time of year.
You've had a great first season over there, averaging 24 points per game in your rookie season, and you even got invited to the All-Star game in your league. how's that whole experience been like, and what was that All-Star game experience like?
Oh man, the All-Star game was crazy. They really put on a show. They had different acts come from all over the island and perform. The actual game wasn't that long. Actually, it was only about 4 6-minute quarters maybe, and then in between each quarter they had like a different act put on the show. So I mean, it was a great experience, a fun experience. And then at the end, it was like a big party. All the kids came around getting pictures, autographs. So it was a good time.
David, we don't like to keep all the questions serious here on Hear the Spear, so I just wanted to ask you, obviously, Cyprus is probably a lot different from America, so I just wanted to ask, what's the best food you've eaten so far in Cyprus, and how are you adjusting to the cuisine and stuff?
I mean, it's really, it's all, they all speak Greek out here. There a lot of connection to Greece on this side of the island, so it's pretty much all Greek food. Best food I say is, I mean, the kebab houses they have out here are pretty good. So I would say there's chicken kebabs, Greek pitas, all that kind of stuff is the best food I had out here. It's all pretty good, actually. It's not too foreign. So everything's pretty simple, and I'm a simple guy, so I like it out here.
I just did a quick Google search on Google Images, and it looks freaking gorgeous. If I'm looking at these images correctly, it doesn't look like a bad place to stay. Was that kind of whenever you were traveling over there and you got the news and stuff, and you made the plan to go across? Was this your first time going overseas? And if it isn't, then how has your experience been so far? Living in a different country, going from Tallahassee and all the way over there. How's the kind of transition been for you as a whole?
I mean, it's funny actually, because it is my first time actually out of the country, and before this, I didn't even have a passport. So When they came through with an offer, I kind of had to rush to get a passport, in a week. So I had to fly back home to Chicago, and my dad is just driving me around everywhere, and he works with the U.S. Postal Service, so he kind of knows the ins and outs of everything. So he kind of got me a passport as quick as humanly possible. We had to show him my contract, say, oh, we need it now in order so I could sign. So that was kind of the process with that. And yeah, this is my first time out of the country, and it's kind of it's a touristy country during the summer. So the place is so Americanized, and it was a British colony for a long time. So almost everyone speaks English. So it hasn't been too much of an adjustment with the language barrier. And like I said, a lot of tourists come here, so they keep it nice.
And talk to me a little about the Pro Scorers Club and how the idea to release merchandise come about to you. The website's also Pro Scorers Club. Tell me a little bit about that, the back end of it, and your plan with it moving forward.
So this kind of started basically in my free time, because when we're overseas, when you're not practicing, when you're not playing, I mean, you have a lot of downtime. Of course, being away from home, it's not like I'm going to see friends or family every day after practice. So it's a lot. You had a lot of free time on your hands. So I just wanted to be productive in that free time. And I don't know, I was just thinking one day, like, it's just something I think that I can relate to. A lot of just basketball players can relate. Everybody wants to score. Everybody wants to succeed in life at a high level. And that name just came to me, Professional Scorers Club. Like, it's just, you see a basketball player, everybody wants to be like the guys who score the most points at the highest level. And it's kind of like overseas basketball players. They all have a connection. Like the basketball world is small, so it's like Professional Sports Club just came to me like that. And then from there, I felt like I can connect a lot of different people, men and women, and then just thinking of just catchy slogans and different taglines like that. And when I was at Florida State, me and Coach Gates and the guys there, we always called it Big Guard University. Like, we always joked around in practice, and anytime somebody get a big dunk or a post up or a tough finish, like, that's a big guard move. That's a big guard. And so I threw that in there, of course, alluding to Florida State. So that's how that came about. And so I'm just trying to push that forward, put that out there, and just have guys wearing that, have everybody around Tallahassee wearing that part of the brand, and just trying to keep it moving forward from there.
Where can they find the merchandise at?
At proscoresclub.com. We're on Twitter and Instagram right now at Pro Scores Club. Also, they can find it from any of my social media accounts. Post about it a couple times a week. It's in my bio on all my social media accounts. So it's fairly easy to find.
Those Big Guard Youth shirts are absolutely fire. As soon as you sent out the link, I had messages from both Zach and Dawson saying, "Yo, these shirts are crazy." Before you got to Florida State and before you graduate transferred, you spent 3 years at Albany. What was your time like up there in New York, and what was the atmosphere like in the American East Conference?
Oh, it was great. It was a great lesson, and just being patient and not buying into the trends of college basketball at the time, because a lot of people don't know my friend, and you can look it up. I barely touched the play. I played about 15 games, maybe if that. Averaged about maybe 5 minutes a game my freshman year there. And the trend at that time was, if you don't play right away, it's still to today, no matter low, major, or high minutes. If you're not on the court right away, then something must be wrong with the program. It must be the coach, and the whole world's against you. Transfer. But, I didn't. I stayed with it, and I just returned. When I was there, we had 3 all-conference guards. They were all seniors in front of me, and they all went on to play professionally. Peter Cooley in Australia. Evan Singletary still plays right now in Iceland. Ray Sanders played professionally after he graduated for a couple of years. So I just waited my time. Went from barely playing to lead a team and score first team all conference as a sophomore, which has never been done in the history of the school. But I think Cam Healy, who's there now, has a chance to be a first team All-American selection this year if they can keep winning and stay in the top 4 in their conference. But yeah, it was fun. We had a lot of talented guys there. My sophomore year, almost went to the NCAA tournament. Had a heartbreaking loss in the championship to Vermont. Our junior year started off great for us. At the beginning of the year, I think we started off 9 or 10-0, and we were second in the mid-major polls. Right, it was Gonzaga, and then it was us. And then things kind of fell apart a little bit, but we always had good teams, winning teams there, so it was a good experience.
Yeah, and following your success at Albany, you decided to grad transfer to Florida State for your final season of eligibility. What drove your decision to transfer to Tallahassee?
Well, after sitting down, talking with, the people around me, it was like, all right, what have I not done at this level? And that was reach an NCAA tournament, which is a huge goal of mine. And so going to a school, that was a really, really big possibility, weighed heavy on my mind. And that meant that I might have to, sacrifice a little bit of my game in order to make an already good team great, or an already great team even better. And so looking at the way that Florida State played, how they played 10 guys, the culture that they had, the unselfishness that they had as a team, how it could be any guy, any night, as long as the team was winning, kind of drew me towards, Florida State, even if that meant sacrificing my offense, going from shooting maybe 15, 16 shots a game to 5 or 6. But being at a winning program that had a chance to win a national championship. So that definitely played a huge role in my decision. And then once I met the coaching staff and the guys and saw the facilities and everything, it kind of just all made sense that this is where I'm supposed to be.
You played in some big games at FSU in your season there. But tell me, during your career there in Tallahassee with Leonard Hamilton, what was your favorite game from your time being at Florida State? Can you name one in particular that really stands out to you that makes you think, man, that's my favorite one?
I would say, there's a couple. It might be a 3-way tie for first place. Definitely beating Vermont in the NCAA tournament was up there, but it was also bittersweet because I got hurt in that game. So I'm not gonna put that first. Senior night was crazy. The comeback we had against Virginia Tech and just the atmosphere and the Tuck was crazy that game. When we went on that run to come back in the second half. But my favorite game is probably the Virginia game in the ACC tournament, just being on that stage and pretty much nobody giving us a chance because the way they beat us the first time earlier in the season and just how locked in and focused everybody was that game. So I say the Virginia game is my favorite. And that showed us at our full potential. That was the last game that everyone was anything close to 100%. If you remember, I think Phil got banged up at the end of that game. So the Duke game, he wasn't 100%. I wasn't 100% at the Duke game. Trent wasn't 100% the whole year. And that was the last game we were truly everyone close to 100%. And that just showed our full potential. For the whole year, you want teams to be peaking at the right time, and that honestly was our peak, and that was our full potential. And I think that if we had that team that beat Virginia by double digits, the NCAA tournament would be a whole different story. Because after that, we were never fully healthy, and I think you guys can attest to that.
Yeah, like you said, I'm sure it was super frustrating for you. I was around you, obviously. Your whole goal was to make the tournament, and you get hurt in that first game. And the next game, you're playing a lottery pick in John Moran, and going to Anaheim and playing in the Sweet 16. I know those are all dreams for you, and it must have been super frustrating not being able to play.
Oh, man, I can't even imagine. When it first happened, I had a similar injury like that before senior night when we played Virginia Tech. I didn't practice the 2 days before we played them, but the same ankle, same sort of kind of injury. I think it happened between Wake Forest and Virginia Tech. So I'm thinking in my head, all right, I'll maybe be out 2 to 3 days, but I'll for sure be ready to play. And it just never happened. And looking back on it now, the way I was preparing and the treatment I was getting, I probably ended up making it worse because after the season, I didn't do anything on the court for 2 months after that. A lot of people don't know that. I had to wear a boot for about a month and a half after the season. And I was out there running on it, trying to warm up. The night before the Murray State and the Gonzaga game, I was with Amanda. We were doing treatment almost 12 hours a day, icing, massaging, Normatec. It was crazy. The stuff I was doing to try and get ready, but there was no way I should have even been walking on it, let alone trying to play at that high of a level. So looking back on it, I think I probably made it worse, but I mean, you're not going to tell me not to try, and this is what I've been working towards all 4 years of college.
What do you think the main differences in the coaching staffs between your time at Albany and Florida State were?
It's just different coaching styles. Everybody has different coaching styles, but they were similar in some ways. Just Albany, Coach Brown, his X's and O's were some of the best that I've seen in my time around basketball. I mean, the way we prepared definitely at a high major level. I mean, even when I wasn't playing as a freshman, I was super prepared. I mean, I could tell you each team we played, their 5 or 6 top plays, I knew them from every single position on the court. I could tell you all their offensive calls, all their defensive calls. From the bench, I mean, the bench where we would sit there, we would tell the starters of the guys that were playing, like what plays coming next, what the player was going to do, every option that they had. So we were definitely super prepared. And at Florida State, it was the same way. And then you had the guys with the X's and O's like Coach Jones, and then you had the elite game manager and Coach Ham. You had the player coaches and Coach CY and Coach Gates. So in Florida State, you had a little bit of everything on top of being prepared at the highest level. But, Florida State, we're really not too worried about other teams' sets because our goal is to find ways to disrupt their sets. Where at Albany was kind of let them run their stuff, but at the end of the play, we're going to find a way to stop it. So it's just two different game styles, 2 different mentalities.
And yeah, speaking about Florida State staff, what do you think about the job they've done this season, integrating so many new players along with the veterans that came back this year and guiding the Noles to a double-digit win streak and even reaching the top 5 so far?
I mean, it's amazing the job that they do, taking so many different personalities and just getting everybody to buy in year out. You never see any negative attitudes when you watch a Florida State basketball game. You never see any egos come through, no matter what the situation is. So it's kind of amazing that they can create such an unselfish culture like that year in and year out. And even with a huge turnaround, so many new guys, and they all immediately are bought in. I think it's just a credit to them, and I don't think you'll see anything like that in college basketball, especially in the culture that exists today. So it's pretty special what they've been able to do, and even with a new coach, Coach Gates goes to Cleveland State. They bring in Coach Smith from Cleveland. from Clemson, and he's able to adapt to that culture so well and get along with the guys. I think that just speaks to Coach Ham and the program that he has going right now.
And last question here, too. How far do you think this team can advance in the tournament, David?
I'm a little biased, but in my opinion, I think they have a chance to win it all. I think that's what most people don't realize about Florida State is how much talent is actually on campus year in and year out, and that we have a chance to potentially win it every year. Like the year before I got there, I watched them a lot, and that Elite Eight team, if they beat Michigan, I think they beat Loyola Chicago by 20, and then they're in a national championship with Villanova, and who knows what happens. And then the next year, my year, if we're healthy, again, it's a lot of what ifs, but we beat Gonzaga, and I think we can beat anybody else in the country. I mean, look, we beat Virginia by double digits, and last year, that's saying something. If you beat a Virginia team by double digits with the talent they had last year, and even when Xavier Rattan-Mays and all those guys were there, and the year they lost to Xavier, they got upset. I think they could have made a even deeper run that year if you really just go back and you just look at the size they had on that roster and the talent they had on that roster. So, I mean, it's going to take them putting everything together at the right time, and also a little luck in the brackets, which, I mean, we never get because we're Florida State, and for some reason we get no love in the brackets. We always get the toughest road possible.
Always in the West.
But
Mm-hmm.
Always in the West, always with Gonzaga and Michigan. But I think these guys have the pieces to win it all if they click at the right time and put it all together, especially with how wide open college basketball has been this year. I mean, it makes no sense from game to game. You look at a team like Michigan, who was so good at the beginning of the year, and now they're, 3-6 in the Big Ten. Everybody's just up and down. It makes no sense.
And before we end it off, I always like to ask, because you see Leonard Hamilton on side of the court, and he's always got that tough face on. But how is he, behind the scenes, maybe even coaching you in practice, but in the locker room, and whenever maybe the camera's not on him, but what is he like? Because Austin tells us a lot, and and we've also had Terrence Mann on, and he told us it's just a different kind of guy off the court. He's very funny, jokes around, but during your time spending with him, a short time in Tallahassee, how was it with Coach Hamilton?
Coach Ham is a great guy. I agree with Terrence when he says he's fun off the court. I mean, he's got all the jokes. He's got different jokes for every guy on the team. He knows all of us at such a personal level. And he's one of those guys you can just talk to. If he sees you walking around, it just tell you to stop by the office, and then he'll talk what you think. He'll talk to you for about 5 minutes, and he'll talking to you for an hour. So you might not want to get caught in that trap of going to talk to Coach Ham on an off day, but I mean, he's just real personable. He's just always has something positive to say. He's just always talking basketball, ways to get the team better. I mean, if you see how hard he works, that just makes you want to be in the gym working harder. Once you see him in his office just constantly watching the game, he'll watch the same game maybe 10 or 12 times, and I'm not exaggerating.
Jeez.
And he'll just search for any little thing to get the team better. It's like it's like kind of when you're a kid and you're watching the NBA and you see a guy do a move and you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to go try this on the court. He'll see something in the game and he cannot wait until the next practice to show us what he saw. You know, it's kind of like that, and to help the team improve. So he's constantly he's constantly looking and searching for ways to make the team better and just incorporating that in the practice. And he's kind of like a player in that sense when he's always looking to perfect his craft. So, I mean, you can do nothing but look up to that and have that inspire you. I mean, that's why I think guys love playing for him, and that's why you see guys buy in and play so hard. 1 through 19, I think they got this year. I think they added one since I was there.
Well, David, thank you for coming on with us and waking you up kind of early here. We definitely appreciate it. And, you know, definitely thank you to Austin, to our co-host on here, for putting this together. And it's always good to see insight, definitely about Leonard Hamilton and also how you're doing overseas. I'm glad it's going well for you, obviously. And also to talk a little bit about your time at Florida State. And, you know, we're looking forward to hopefully being able to cover a long run in the tournament coming up in a few months, most certainly.
No, thank you for having me. Definitely a good time. Great way to spend my morning. And I'll be waiting. I can't wait till this comes out so I can listen to it. You know, who doesn't like hearing themselves talk? And thanks for having me.
Yeah, and don't forget to check out David's apparel at proscoresclub.com.
Most certainly.
Yeah, definitely check that out on all my socials. I think we got some pretty cool stuff for you guys, and constantly updating, constantly dropping new stuff. Just trying to do the best I can in that area, like I do on the court. So definitely check that out. I appreciate that.